Hi, friends. Thank you so much for joining me for our weekly Pastor's Update. I've been reflecting on the words by Reverend L. Sharpton, who spoke to us at the African American Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. It really touched my heart. His words, I believe, are full of wisdom for the moment that we're in together towards social change and justice in our world. He challenged us to make a commitment steeped in love to ethical congruence, to be salt and light to our generation, which is a great Valentine's Day message. We were reminded that the blood that we share and that binds us is deeper than our skin color. As Catholics, we are certainly reminded of that truth every week when we gather around the communion table to take in Jesus' body and blood as a family of God, bound for the work of love and justice. He reminded us as people of faith that we must operate out of a sense of calling in the work and not out of a career as the world does. Reverend Sharpton challenged us to develop health and wellness communities within our churches, to deal with issues of education, injustice, oppression, impacting the vulnerable. One of the most powerful moments in his talk was his reminder that it was our ancestors who sponsored us with their blood and sacrifices. And that what we all have today, he said, was given to us. We didn't earn it. Our charge was to take up our responsibility, our ancestral responsibility, to make the world better. He then spoke to those who may feel like they don't have what it takes. To them, he said this. He said, some of you may have been afterthoughts. Maybe nobody had you in mind. But remember that God takes the rejected, the marginalized, the hidden, the missed, the unseen, and calls on them to be servants, because God has always used the unlikely people. I then began to reflect on all the unlikely people used for good that God has called. So there was young David, called to kingship for Israel, Deborah, called to be a judge, Mary and Joseph, called to be parents of our Jesus, Paul and Mary Magdalene, called to be apostles, and of course, our church, Spiritus Christi. God is always looking in unlikely places for people to do God's will. God has clearly chosen us as a community. What a privilege to make a commitment together to heal the world. Happy Black History Month. Ash Wednesday is February 22nd, as you know, and it kicks off our Lenten season. We will have two services, one at 12 noon here at Spiritus Christi, and the other at 7 p.m. at Emmanuel Baptist Church on Park Avenue. What a blessing it is to enter the season of Lent, where we spend 40 days on retreat with Jesus. SPARC and the Black Community Focus Fund this month invites you to the Love and Justice 2 music concert on Friday, February 24th at 6 p.m., featuring Serena Young, the Spiritus Choir, the Children's Choir, and others. And Saturday, February 25th, they invite you to another fundraising event from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we'll welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Starsky Wilson. He's the CEO and president of the Children's Defense Fund, and he will speak on our hope for years to come toward a vision of child well-being. Tickets for these events are $25 each, and you can purchase them at eventbrite.com and at the masses this weekend. More details can be found on our website. So I really encourage anyone who works with kids and who cares for kids to come and hear Dr. Starsky. And if you love good music, you don't want to miss the Love and Justice 2 music concert. It's going to be amazing. All proceeds will go towards building the outdoor Franklin D. Florence Civil Rights Park and the work that SPARC and BCFF is doing in vulnerable communities. So thank you in advance for your support. There are many wonderful offerings during Lent. Mike Boucher has a series beginning on February 27th with a film and discussion focused on the doctrine of discovery. Meanwhile, our Thursday speaker series entitled My Story, My Voice will begin on February 23rd. All the masses are preceded by a soup supper that will happen at 6 p.m. in the Nielsen Room. So please plan to join us for fellowship before the Mass. Damon Morse, one of our parishioners and a current resident of Grace of God Recovery House, will be our first preacher. And the following week, we will hear from our very own Kit Miller. So this week, friends, we send our condolences to Sister Margie Henniger and her family on the death of her sister Teresa Schmidt, whose funeral will be 10 a.m. on Friday, February 24th at the Kevin W. Doherty Funeral Home. We send our heartfelt sympathy to Tina Vatana and her family on the death of her mother, Mary Ingalls. We send our sympathy to Marianne Sears on the death of her friend Rita, and Joan and Carolyn Haviland on the death of Joan's nephew and Carolyn's cousin, Robert Klein. We want you to know that our hearts are with you, our prayers are with you, our thoughts are with you as you go through this very difficult time of grief. Well, friends, today is Valentine's Day. So as you celebrate Valentine's Day, I hope you remember God's deep love for you. And I will see you next week for our weekly Pastor's Update. Take care.